I'm not interested in taxing the internet. I've been in favor of the broad growth of the internet, and I think that it's important for us to allow it to continue to stimulate commerce through having a method whereby it is not taxed. And so in short answer, I would be opposed to taxing sales tax on the internet.
Committee that deals particularly with this issue. There may be a case in the future where it's appropriate to tax the internet, but currently, Mr. Bergs and I actually agree on this point. I think the first one so far where we've had agreement. I want to see the internet to continue to be an area where we can experiment. History has proven that when somebody develops a new idea or a new product or a new channel and they go through the internet to purvey it, that they end up going to the states and selling or having a presence in the states and therefore have to charge sales tax as it is. Hopeful that in the process of overseeing the Multnomah State Tax Commission, which reports to my committee, that we will be able to get tax commissioners from the various states to understand that they need to do a rational approach to taxation, not just on the internet, but as to interstate other kinds of taxes that we're dealing with them. We've got 3 or 4 or 5 bills now that deal with how states tax and trying to require some fairness here. And that, I think, is, if you care about the internet, then I hope people will vote for me because I'm actually in the middle of the protection of these very important principles.
Yeah, the internet is one of the few places in the world that a free market and open ideas actually really exist, and that's how that's almost the sole way that I've campaigned is through the internet, and that's how I've been able to keep my costs so low. Taxing it is no. The government expanding into the internet, they want to get their hands on any extra source of revenue they can. I think the government needs to stay as far away. And as far as other taxes that the government has, I've always heard it said, and like the motto, if 10% is good enough for God, it's good enough for the government.
I agree with everything all the other candidates have actually said on this very subject. In particular, Mr. Holman. I think he did an excellent job on what he said there. I think that this is one area as far as taxation is concerned, to let free market expressions take place. People can have all the information they want, good or bad, up to a certain point, of course. But yes, I agree with what the other gentlemen have said completely.
First of all, say, and it goes along well with this, repeating what Mr. Holman said, 10% is good enough for God, it's good enough for government. I agree with that. We are spending way too much money in government, and we're spending a little tiny bit of money by percentage on education, but we are requiring vast amounts of paperwork and resources with that small leverage that we're using at a federal level. I've talked to dozens of teachers, partisan and nonpartisan, interested in teaching and interested in administering, and most of them are come see, come saw as to whether or not we ought to continue federal funding because the net cost of federal funding is so great. There's nothing that the federal government brings to bear for education that is good. And this, by the way, I can quote the leadership of the Utah Education Association that doesn't believe that the federal government has a role in directing teachers, but they think that the federal government should tell our legislators how to fund education, and so they continue to want to have a Department of Education. We're just all wrong in this whole area. Utah it has the worst problem in education in the country, and we need to solve the problems here locally and probably move the federal government entirely out of the issue of education, which is the most local issue that we actually have in our country.
Yeah, our higher education system is one of the best in the world. Our primary education system has a lot of problems. There's a lot of what we need to do is set up something where the money follows the student. I'm in favor of vouchers and allowing choice in education. That's the most important thing. That's why our college system is so great, because people can choose what type of education they want. It's the same way with primary education. We need to allow choice in education. It's not a one-size-fits-all. I went through charter school, homeschool, and high school. I actually dropped out of public high school and finished through a charter school. You need to have choice. The federal government has Pell Grants for students. They subsidize the interest. I'm not a real I don't believe in government spending on a lot of issues, but we need to start moving away from this system that we have. It's a real socialized system, top-down control, and make it more grassroots and allow money to follow a student.
Yes, there's two fundamental problems with education right now. The number one problem, as I see it, is what's being taught and how it's being taught. And that's why you have all the division right now in education, whether it's charter schools, private schools, public schools, or so forth. But the second main reason that nobody wants to address is that the federal government absolutely has no role in federal government at all. There's nothing in the Constitution that provides the government to have any jurisdiction in government. Let me give you the definition of constitutional government. If everybody in the state of Utah wants something done and cannot or will not do it, if everybody in the United States wants it done, cannot or will not do it, the federal government cannot do it unless there is a specific provision in the Constitution authorizing federal action. Otherwise, you have illegal, unlawful, lawless government, no matter what the Supreme Court says. There's nothing in the Constitution that allows the federal government to be involved in education. Get rid of it.
There's no question about it. We need to do a better job of funding our education. I think it's interesting that Mr. Canada says that he doesn't think the federal government should do anything with education, but he voted for No Child Left Behind. I do think the federal government has a role. I think Pell Grants are good. I think subsidized student loans are a great program to educate our populace. And it's quite clear that Mr. Canada has continually voted against increases in Pell Grants and keeping subsidized student loans in line with rising costs of tuition. Additionally, when Mr. Canada voted for the No Child Left Behind Act, this act has consistently imposed burdens on our local schools, which are wrong, and at the same time do not provide adequate funding. I believe that we do need to bring more localization of our curriculum to schools, and got the No Child Left Behind Act because I think that it's too much of a burden on our schools, but at the same time we need to provide incentives for people to get good education.